It's another Friday, the first one that we're doing a live on in 2020. Welcome to the Woodsmith shop. I'm Phil Huber. We're going to do a quick tour of what's going on down here because frankly there's not a lot going on.
There's a lot of boxing going on.
A lot of boxing going on.
Oh, you guys are in a box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who saw our promotional emails right around New Year, we did the mystery box just to clear out some stuff that we had going on here. Ended up with about 2,000 orders.
In a day.
In a day, which
Yeah.
was sort of a surprise. People were surprised.
Yeah. It was a flat $10 per mystery box.
Yeah.
Guaranteed $40 value or more, and a flat $3.99 shipping. So we had a lot of people order one for $13.99, shipping included. We had a lot of people order multiples, so some ordered 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Which has been really.
Yeah.
I want to say fun, but I don't want to say fun because it's been a lot of boxing.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of people here helping out, John and Becky and Logan, Dylan, working on packing up the boxes and getting those out the door.
Todd and Alan were over here this morning.
So we're shipping them out just as fast as we can because I think we didn't quite expect that many.
No, I think we are probably going to deplete our inventory, so we may have to refund some orders, but we will see. We'll see what we have.
There will definitely be surprises.
Yeah, so we have a lot of hardware drawers over here that have a lot of high-end hardware in them that might get put in boxes.
Might be surprises.
There might be stuff on Chris's bench that's not bolted down, and he's not here today.
Right.
So,
yeah.
There may be some Chris Fitch tools that go in there.
Yep. Absence is implied consent.
Exactly.
So anyway, first thing that I thought we'd talk about today is we're going to head over to Mark's bench. He's not here today, but the project that he's working on is designed by Dylan, so I wanted Dylan to talk through what's been going on over there.
Hi everybody, filling in for Mark today, kind of stealing his identity in a talented Mr. Ripley scenario. So what you see, or what we have in front of you here, is the state in which the cabinet's in. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about and highlight and show you some improvements that have gone on since the old year. Anyway, so while Mark was working on the main case, I gave him a little hand and started working on the base for the vinyl console. There's one little detail on this piece I wanted to show you guys. Since it is a vinyl console and it's subjected to being potentially bumped into, vinyl needles can be hypersensitive to vibration or noise in itself and can make a vinyl skip. So what we did is we installed these stabilizer feet on the bottom. They're essentially spring-loaded and pivoted, so depending on where the weight distribution is on the cabinet, these will absorb a little bit of the initial shock, and again, that is to help prevent from the needle skipping on the vinyl. So that was just kind of another little extra detail that sometimes can get lost. If you subscribe to the magazine, you'll see that it's in there, but a lot of times in photos, you got a black base here with black feet. Those are little details that are certainly crucial to design, but may get missed or blend into something else. I'm going to put this behind here and then talk about some of the other features that are going on that I'm kind of excited about. So there is an absence of the two removable speaker grills. We talked about those a little bit. We'll have to, once we get a little bit farther along, it'll just be easier to see it than talk about it. But the removable grills that are slatted, and then there's a spheroid or a concave shape that's going to be carved into those. It's kind of like a relief. Again, those will be removable. This is designed to have, you can do custom speakers built in here if you want to, but they also accommodate, if you have a set of shelf speakers already, you can insert those in there. So another feature is the lid lift for the vinyl console. So we used a set of black invisible sauce hinges back there. I can't remember which number they are. They might be 203s or 204s. I can't quite remember. And then there will be a German style or Euro style lid lift to actually hold up the lid in place. But this is where the vinyl console goes. Down below here is open. That's where your receiver will go. So all your components hooked up. You can control your levels and volume and that sort of thing. And the other kind of curious feature of this is the storage we added. So this is a drop front, and this is for your vinyl collection, or a small part of it. This is designed to have the vinyl stacked on ends, so you can see the titles of your vinyls. Again, these will be accommodated with the same lid lifts or Euro lid lifts that are go in the vinyl cavity. And then the pivot point on these are the same as the hinges for the top there. So just kind of a curious little feature. I'll be excited to kind of get this wrapped up. I suspect probably by next week we'll have some finish on it and maybe have a final project. I know Mark was working on getting the molding applied here. The case is glued up, and then there's an applied profile on the edge here. So he was going about doing that the other day. He's got these kind of profile specific clamping blocks or call blocks for his application to kind of keep holding in place. Since he cut them almost about the same thickness of the material, he didn't really have a lot of leeway there for movement. So again, just kind of improvising for the project to again kind of help keep things moving along. So I think that's really all I have for this week. You'll have to check back in. Like I said, hopefully we'll have somewhat, if not, very close to a finished project. So thanks for checking in. I think we're gonna maybe move on to Phil. Do you have anything?
Well, we have a
Question
here from Jill. Have you given consideration of vibration isolation, and if so, what's being done? Any more than just the base?
We didn't do anything other than the base. I considered doing it underneath the vinyl. I was going to do basically a sub-level or sub-top here with another set of isolation feet. This is a project I wanted to really go overboard with, but inevitably we kind of have to pump the brakes on some things. There's still the opportunity for that, since it wouldn't be a fixed surface. You could still add, again, another sub-top here with isolation feet underneath. The only, again, precautionary measure we took were with the isolation feet for the base itself. So that would be another step. Again, it's not integrated into this, but it could be applied. I know some of the newer or more modern vinyl players, they're a little bit lower profile, so you would certainly have, or potentially have room for those. And I think that one might be a matter of even dropping this divider down a little bit too to accommodate for that. There's certainly plenty of room down here for your receiver. So again, if this had to move down, I don't think that would really I don't think it would really affect the overall design. Again, that's just kind of accommodating for the hardware you have. So hopefully that answered the question adequately.
Another person asked the final height. Do you remember?
The final height.
The final height of the console
Yes.
itself. The feet.
Get out the tape measure.
I know
22 inches.
This is 22 inches.
I just made that up.
Convert that.
That's based on.
The full height is 28, about give or take, with the isolation feet on the base.
28 by 18 by 60.
So, and it's all made out of African mahogany. So even though it's a little bit, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't call it a large case. It's, with a couple people, it's actually not that heavy, which is great if you have to move it around. I mean, hopefully you don't. But
It's great for Mark's chiropractor bill.
yes. Again, when we're designing these projects, something like this, you do want the density and weight of it, but also you have to take into consideration one person building it a lot of the time. So we do scale around those sorts of things.
Did you design this handle?
No, this is a faux handle. So
show.
Mark just used that for his spacing, and then obviously to be able to.
Is that just double-sided taped on, I'm guessing?
That's double-sided tape.
Awesome.
Makes the world go round.
Yep.
Right.
All right, we had another question from
Andrew.
Andrew, his question is, he's looking to get some layout tools and sees the prices at Harbor Freight and was wondering, for tools that are occasionally needed, is it worth the Harbor Freight price, or is the Harbor Freight price
I
worth it?
thought I had a Harbor Freight tape measure over here, but I don't.
Yeah. I guess personally, I would say it depends on what you're getting for layout tools. Like if you can find a square that's square, or like one of those rafter triangles or things like that, I think it's worthwhile.
So there's a few things. I'm a Harbor Freight aficionado. I love a lot of the stuff.
Wow, humble too.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love my expensive tools and my super nice boutique tools, there's some real gems at Harbor Freight that I like.
Yeah.
They're tape measures. I love them.
Okay.
Because who doesn't lose a tape measure? And it hurts a whole lot less to lose a free tape measure, right?
Yeah.
They have their digital calipers. I don't know if I would consider those a layout tool necessarily, but I've used them for layout before, for like sizing dados and stuff.
Yeah.
Their digital calipers are awesome.
Okay.
They also have some dividers in inside and outside calipers that I've used for turning that work really well. I don't know that I would trust their straight edge to be truly straight. You know, I wouldn't necessarily go checking the flatness of a panel with it.
Unless you checked it at the store.
Unless you checked it at the store,
If you can go to the...
Just use one of their straight edges to check it?
Right, yes. You reference
You just
their own straight
bring a
edge.
pencil along and you just go to the wall and you draw a line, you flip it over and you draw another line and sit on there.
However, I think they're framing squares. So framing squares are something you can adjust.
Sure.
With a center punch and a hammer and punching the inside or outside corner of framing squares, you can adjust them. So something like that I think is fine because you can adjust it to where it's square.
Yeah. Combination squares?
Yeah, I've never had any experience with the combination squares from Harbor Freight. I've had experience with other combination squares from like Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards.
Right.
And they can get a little sketchy. Some of them are accurate, some of them are not.
Sure.
I'm sure it's like everything else at Harbor Freight. You have to find the good ones of a certain item.
Maybe we need to have a new segment for our Friday Lives, the Harbor Freight Spectator.
Yeah.
We'll just sample some tools. If you have any thoughts on something that's worked well for you and you were watching this video, put it in the comments. We'll talk about it maybe next week or in the coming weeks.
Yep.
So a couple other things that we have going on is, for those of you who remember from the TV show, we built this project. It's a serving tray that has sculpted ends on here and then trays for crackers.
Fancy round crackers.
Fancy round crackers, and then a removable cutting board, end grain cutting board. We did this for the magazine and for the TV show, so we have two of these babies, and one of the questions that we get quite often is, what do we do with the projects that we build either for the show or for the magazine? Where do they go? Well, here's a chance for you to get one of these, because we're going to work with our compatriots over at Cuisine, and we're going to put together two fully outfitted cheese and cracker trays where they're gonna select the food items to go with it.
They probably have better taste than we do.
Probably have better taste than we do, because for us it would probably be like Ritz crackers and like squeezed
Easy
cheese.
cheese.
Easy cheese. Yeah, cheese whiz.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna work with them, do a couple of videos, maybe some Facebook and Instagram posts on what you can do to trick this out for entertaining. And then we're gonna give those away to a couple of lucky viewers from both Cuisine Land and the greater Woodsmith universe. So, stay tuned for that. Then the other thing that I wanted to talk about was a little personal project I've been working on. A number of years ago for Shop Notes, we did an article on CNC machines, CNC routers. And we wanted to come up with a project that would somebody at home with a CNC could make. So Chris isn't here, otherwise I'd have him talk about it, but he came up with this toolbox. And over on the shopnotes.com website, I believe that the DXF files for this are still floating around. So if you want to download it and make one for yourself, it's still there. What's pretty cool about it was the way Chris integrated some things like a recessed handle that flips up, and then these built-in latches that keep the lid closed. They have little aluminum sliders on them. And it's pretty cool. It ended up, and then this fun kind of continuous hinge.
Piano hinge for the rest of the world.
Piano hinge for the rest of the world, but not really a piano hinge, because it's all
individual tongues.
Individual pieces of Baltic birch with a rod that goes through it. So project was excess, and you've been using it for taking to some of the classes that I teach. I'll bring my props and tools along with it, and it's proven to be pretty handy. It's pretty lightweight, but then I also found in the dumpster the parts for a prototype that Chris did, And over this past week, I painted the recesses and the Shop Notes CNC on there and then sprayed it. And then because it was just an empty box, I added this middle section here with a little slide up handle. So I can have 2 of these because I usually end up with a lot of stuff that I'm taking between classes. And what I like about it, and I added some tongues, little registration pieces on there so that when it's in my shop, it can stack nicely on top of each other and form a fun little unit. So quick and easy shop project to start the new year.
I'm still under the the belief that you should build some sort of roller system for this so you can pull it around like airport luggage.
Sure.
That would be awesome.
Well, I have been toying around with the idea because you're never really done with shop projects, is making like a little tray for in here for adding some more organization. Or because I noticed once I got the handles in here that these are pretty deep wells, which is nice, but maybe add a couple of little trays or something to be able to organize those in there. So anyway, any other questions, control group?
We have one about ventilation on the console.
So somebody said they are no longer going to use the term record player. It's now a vinyl console from now on.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think Andrew had a question on ventilation.
On ventilation?
Yeah, if there's going to be ventilation on that bad boy, which I see some large holes in the rear.
So there's a couple ports in the back here that we may not have shown that are for the speakers. They're essentially for the terminals for the speakers, whether you decide to build your own or if you use shelf speakers that are prefabricated. But in terms of the receiver ventilation, I haven't done anything on the bottom. You know, I thought about routing some grooves that just run parallel with one another. I mean, they can be, you know, anywhere from 1/2 inch to, you know, full inch if you really need them to be. There is a port in the back that's, I believe, maybe like a 2.5 inch diameter, but that was really more for the cords, but it was to get a little bit of airflow through the back. You know, like any project, depending on how many different, you know, I know a lot of the old stacks are, you've got, you know, your receiver, you've got your cassette player, you've got your CD player, and then of course your vinyl player. You know, if I was going to have multiples stacked on top of one another, I probably would have been a little bit more concerned. I know the receiver's ultimately going to be generating the most heat, but again, this cavity is fairly sizable. I believe, so it's almost about 12 inches from the bottom of the case up to the top here. So there's quite a bit of space. Again, if it's a concern of yours, like I said, what I'd probably do, with the exception of the hole that's already drilled for the cords to go through for the power and the speakers, I would probably either drill maybe a series of holes. You know, you can do them in any pattern. It doesn't really matter. You're just, again, allowing for airflow to come up through the base. You could router longer slots, or again, like I said, you could just drill some holes with either a hole saw, or if you have a set of Forstner bits, of course, you could do that in any sort of pattern with any diameter size too. And again, I think that would help alleviate a little bit. But again, since we were only just doing a receiver, I didn't worry about it as much. But those are a couple options that you could do to, again, help alleviate from anything overheating. So, and then the back on the vinyl player is pretty much open. There's just a small stretcher in the back, really just to hold the hinges to allow it to lift. Otherwise, it's an open back here. And then, of course, when you're playing it, the lid's going to be open anyway, so there's room for plenty of ventilation to go through there. And of course, the hinges aren't screwed in right now, so.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Mark's watching at home.
Kick your
Mad.
butt.
Mark is going to drive in here right now.
Here he comes.
Linda's probably watching, going to tell Mark.
Linda, if you're watching, tell Mark.
Yeah. All right, I think that just about wraps it up. There's one other fun announcement that I wanted to make to start off our new year. And for those of you who are podcast fans, we've just started our own podcast here. We're calling it the Shop Notes Podcast. You can get it, you can go out to any podcast store and get it.
Your local.
It's free.
Your local corner
It's
podcast
free.
store.
Right, yep.
Or those of you guys watching on YouTube, we are going to upload them on YouTube as well. So we have some cameras going. It's just us three knuckleheads sitting around talking.
Yeah, with the occasional guest.
Yeah, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, once a week on Fridays, we're going to be dropping a new episode. So check it out. It's called the Shop Notes Podcast. We'll be doing it every week.
Yeah.
So.
And next Thursday, we have a seminar coming up with
Right.
Vince and Kona choosing a table saw. So if you have a table saw and you want to upgrade, you want to buy a table saw, you don't have one, check that out. It is Thursday the 16th, I believe.
Yes.
At 11.
11 o'clock Central Time,
Yep.
same as always. It's our Woodsmith Live. So, or if you just want to justify the purchase that you've had, you
Yeah,
can
exactly.
come in and tune in and see, make sure that you can justify that to
Yeah.
whoever you need to justify your purchases to.
Woodsmithshop.com/seminars. Get your all access pass.
Yeah.
And no more questions, controller? No more questions.
All right, we're gonna keep an eye on the weather and snow. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week, everybody.
Stay
Bye.
dusty.